Hi everybody, Jeff here. For those of you in IT, I'm sure it's been a very busy couple of weeks getting everybody up and running, working from home. Some of my clients have described very successful transitions, others have had a lot more trouble. For those of us at KPMG, we've had a very successful move to working from home, in no small part due to a lot of hard work from our IT team. Now, I'm going to spend some time today talking a little bit about what we see IT's response to the COVID-19 pandemic being. But before I do, we are running a webinar next Monday the 20th. There is an open invite, which you'll find in the post above, which will cover everything I'm going to talk about today in a lot more detail. I'll also be joined by a few members of the technology consulting team at KPMG to really add some context and detail to what I'm going to talk about today. So please sign up, we'd love to see you there. Otherwise, what will follow will be the very brief version. So, talking about IT's response. If we think about where we're at right now, a lot of organizations are moving out of that initial response mode and into more of a change period where we're trying to understand what the COVID-19 pandemic is going to mean for our business and our business models going forward. If we think about the environment we're going to be operating in, we're probably going to have closed borders or at least very restricted borders for quite a while. Businesses are going to reopen, but we don't know when or how. That's going to be up to the New Zealand government. Our supply chains are going to carry on being at least impacted, if not disrupted. And thinking about what's getting done from home, I think working from home is going to carry on, as well a lot of business operations and a lot of those things we used to do face-to-face, like sales. Now, if you're anything like me, that's a bit of a mixed bag. I'm personally enjoying not having to drive to work in the morning, and I have a very comfortable home office setup. But if you think wider, the impact on a lot of organizations is significant. Now, that impact is going to vary depending on what sector or industry you're in, and equally what your organization does. But what we've thought about is there are 4 key things that are going to apply across most organizations. Now, first off, cost is going to be a factor. There is going to be significant pressure on the cost of IT, as with other parts of the business, and you're going to have to address that. Second, the demand on technology is not going to reduce. If anything, it's going to increase, particularly if you look at organizations that are looking at changing their business model or changing how they operate. The third element there is automation and delivery of technology continues to be really important, largely to support that change and support the business to operate effectively. And lastly, prioritization of projects, initiatives, spend is going to be even more important than ever. In our opinion, blanket stop to all your IT projects is not the answer. Now, I'm going to cover each of those topics in a little bit more detail, and we'll jump into cost first. It probably comes as no surprise that cost pressures are going to be inevitable on IT departments as per any other departments. Now, the common approach that we often see is headcount and just chopping headcount. And while we acknowledge that some element of that may be unavoidable, there are other areas that you can look at to control and in some cases reduce your costs. Now, some of those may be commercial, and we talk about some smart sourcing as well as having a look at your contracts and changing some of your contracts you have for services and with suppliers, through to technical, and in some cases sweating your assets, as many New Zealand organisations are very good at doing, or in some cases even adopting new technologies like cloud. Now, that can be really challenging in an environment where you're told to reduce costs. The thought of doing new things may be intimidating or worrying, but we think that there are other areas you can look at rather than just slashing your headcount. With cost considered, it's important to consider how you're going to support the business moving forward. How your business operates and even what it does may be significantly different in the near future than it is today, and your team needs to be able to support that. Now, there's 3 areas we think about here when we're considering this. The first off is scalability. First off, your technology environment, can you scale up and down the services that you offer to respond to demand? This may mean a significant increase in online channels or decreases in other areas. And it also applies to people. Can you scale your team quickly? The second area we're talking about is your suppliers. Now, given the environment we're operating in and increased remote working, the type of supply that you may have picked before may not be the type of supply that will suit you in future. We certainly see an opportunity for more niche suppliers or smaller specialist suppliers to really be effective in the remote working world. The last area here is upskilling and closely tied to what we said before about getting internal teams to deliver. Is your team positioned today to deliver on new technologies and new ways of working? now presents a great opportunity for those people to start upskilling, either through training, self-development, or other avenues. If you haven't experienced already, it's likely there'll be a significant pressure to halt all IT projects, and in fact most business projects. We don't believe this is the best approach. Rather, taking a hard look at how you prioritize with a lens on reducing cost and enabling new revenue streams will identify those projects that in fact need to continue to deliver, and in many cases may need to be delivered more rapidly than before. Thinking about how to deliver those projects, this may be an opportunity to take a look at global suppliers, given we're all working remotely anyway. It's a great time to really look at the tools that you are using. While Excel spreadsheets may have gotten us by in the past, when you're working remotely with distributed teams, solid workflow and project management tools are a must. Finally, making pragmatic technology choices and thinking about how we deliver technology. Technologies like cloud, particularly software as a service and platform as a service, and even infrastructure, can be deployed a lot more rapidly than traditional infrastructure builds. And thinking about how we deliver projects, taking a really hard look at delivering real MVPs or even MMPs and agile ways of delivery may make a lot of sense in the environment we're operating in. The final area I'm going to touch on today is one near and dear to me because it's all about technology and automation. First off, making pragmatic technology choices we've already mentioned a number of times, and we've talked about adopting cloud where it makes sense. We've talked about the benefits, particularly the speed of deployment as well as scalability. But while it is important to do this rapidly, what we are coaching is taking an all-of-organization approach using a framework that incorporates all elements of cloud. This includes things like finance and governance and the skills you've got in the team. The second area I want to talk about is automation. Now, when I talk automation, I'm not talking about integration using middleware and areas like that, because we see that as being an area that can be complex and costly when at the moment we're looking for cost reduction. What we're talking about here is manual processes that can be automated using technologies such as RPA, or robotic process automation. Working from home has quickly exposed where manual processes fail and don't work, particularly when they're paper-based, and RPA can be a very quick and relatively simple way to automate a lot of these processes. The final one here I'll touch on is architecture, an often debated topic with my clients. As we move forward in this rapidly evolving situation, it is important that we maintain alignment between our solutions, our information, our data, our security, and it's really important that the bigger picture is taken into consideration, and that's where architects can play a really key role. Now, they can be challenging to recruit and they can be challenging to retain, but we believe there is a need for them. So that has been a rapid fire version of all the content we're going to cover in our webinar next Monday. Again, the link to that webinar is up top. All are welcome, and we do encourage you to please sign up. I hope you found this interesting, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.